The faint hum of the city buzzed beyond the apartment's thin walls, a subtle reminder of the world outside. Inside, however, Noah and Oliver shared a quiet sanctuary. Noah, in his late 20s, stood at the kitchen counter, pouring steaming coffee into two mismatched mugs. His athletic build and easy charm made him the type of person who filled a room effortlessly, though he rarely noticed the effect he had on others. Across the counter sat Oliver, his roommate, a man of equal age but with a quieter, more deliberate presence. His dark curls framed a thoughtful face that often betrayed more emotion than he intended. "Morning, sunshine," Noah quipped, sliding a mug toward Oliver. Oliver accepted it with a small smile. "Thanks. Big plans for today? Work, gym, maybe dinner with Lily if she gets out early?" Noah's words were casual, but Oliver felt the slight shift in his chest at the mention of Lily. She was kind, smart, and everything Noah deserved, but Oliver couldn't ignore the pang of envy that came with hearing her name. The apartment itself mirrored their dynamic, a blend of Noah's bold, lived-in messiness and Oliver's meticulous, understated order. It was small but cozy, with just enough space for the two of them to coexist comfortably, perhaps too comfortably at times. Their bond was built on late-night talks and shared struggles. Noah, once a carefree extrovert, had confided in Oliver about the pressures of adulthood, of juggling work and a relationship that sometimes felt like a second job. Oliver, in turn, shared the struggles of being openly gay in a world that still, at times, felt hostile. Over time, their friendship grew into something unspoken but deeply rooted, a connection that left Oliver grappling with feelings he knew he shouldn't have. "Don't forget to lock the door," Oliver said as Noah grabbed his gym bag. "Yes, Mom," Noah teased with a grin before stepping out. Alone, Oliver exhaled, his shoulders sagging. It was exhausting pretending his feelings didn't exist, but he was determined to keep them buried. Noah was straight, and anything else was a betrayal of their friendship. Later that night, the hum of the city softened into a murmur as darkness enveloped the apartment. Oliver was sitting on the couch, immersed in a book, when he heard it, a faint creak of floorboards. "Is that you, Noah?" he called out. There was no response. When he turned, he saw Noah standing in the hallway, his gaze distant and unfocused. "Noah?" Oliver stood cautiously. Noah didn't answer, his movements slow and dreamlike as he walked toward Oliver. It took a moment for Oliver to realize Noah was sleepwalking. "Hey, let's get you back to bed," Oliver said softly, placing a guiding hand on Noah's shoulder. Noah muttered something incomprehensible, allowing himself to be led back to his room. Oliver tucked him in and lingered for a moment, watching his peaceful face. A flush of warmth spread through him, then quickly gave way to guilt. The next morning, Oliver hesitated before bringing it up. "You, sleepwalked last night?" Noah raised an eyebrow, mid-bite of his cereal. "Really? That's new. You walked right into the living room. I had to guide you back." "Well, thanks for not letting me wander into traffic," Noah said with a laugh. He shrugged it off, but Oliver couldn't. The image of Noah standing so vulnerable in the dim light stayed with him all day. As weeks passed, the sleepwalking episodes became more frequent. Some nights were harmless, Noah wandering the apartment muttering nonsense. But other nights were more intimate. One evening, Oliver found Noah sitting on his bed, head tilted as if listening to something only he could hear. "Noah, you're sleepwalking again," Oliver whispered, trying to maintain his composure. Noah turned to him, his expression soft but unreadable. For a moment, Oliver felt the world narrow to just the two of them, the air thick with something unspoken. "Come on," Oliver said, his voice trembling slightly. "Let's get you back to your room." When Noah woke the next morning, he seemed oblivious to the depth of Oliver's internal struggle. Tension brewed beneath the surface. Noah was still wrapped up in his relationship with Lily, though cracks had begun to show. She was kind but busy, her job demanding most of her attention. On the rare nights they had dinner together, the conversations were polite but strained. I feel like you're always with Oliver, Lily said one evening, her tone light but pointed. He's my roommate, Noah replied, brushing it off. We just hang out. You know you're the one I love. But Lily wasn't convinced. Neither, deep down, was Oliver. Oliver lying awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling. Noah's sleepwalking had become a symbol of everything complicated between them, an intimate vulnerability that blurred the lines of their friendship. Oliver knew he needed to confront his feelings, but the thought of jeopardizing their bond paralyzed him. In the next room, Noah slept soundly, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond his walls. The apartment was quiet, save for the soft rustle of rain against the windows. Oliver sat at his desk, headphones on, sketching idly in his notebook. Art had always been his outlet, a way to untangle the emotions he couldn't voice. Tonight, however, even that wasn't enough. His lines were jagged, unfocused, as thoughts of Noah weighed heavily on his mind. It had been weeks since Noah's sleepwalking began, and each incident chipped away at Oliver's resolve. What started as innocent interruptions had grown into something far more complicated. The lines between reality and Oliver's feelings blurred dangerously whenever Noah appeared at his most vulnerable. A soft creak from the hallway made Oliver pause. He turned, expecting to see Noah heading to the kitchen for water, but instead found him standing in the doorway to Oliver's room. Not again, Oliver whispered, setting down his pencil. Noah stepped forward, his gaze unfocused, a slight tilt to his head as if listening to a far-off sound. Oliver's pulse quickened. He had dealt with this before, guiding Noah back to bed, trying to ignore the flutter of emotions that arose from these moments. But tonight felt different. Noah, you're sleepwalking, Oliver said softly, rising from his chair. Noah didn't respond. Instead, he moved closer, his movements deliberate despite his unconscious state. Oliver froze, unsure whether to speak louder or stay silent. When Noah finally stopped, he was inches away, his breath warm against Oliver's neck. You should go back to bed, Oliver stammered, his voice unsteady. But Noah didn't move. His hand rose slowly, brushing against Oliver's arm. The touch sent a jolt through Oliver, a mix of longing and guilt so intense it nearly made him step back. Noah, Oliver whispered again, this time more pleading. In that moment, Noah leaned in, his lips brushing against Oliver's cheek. It was fleeting, barely there, but it shattered Oliver's resolve completely. For a second, he let himself imagine that this was real, that Noah was choosing him, not acting out some unconscious dream. But reality crashed back like a cold wave. Oliver stepped away, his voice firmer now. You need to go back to bed. Noah blinked, his expression shifting slightly. For a brief, terrifying moment, Oliver thought he was awake. But then Noah turned and walked out, leaving Oliver trembling in the aftermath. The following morning, Oliver avoided Noah entirely, burying himself in errands and work. He couldn't face him, not with the memory of last night still so fresh. But by evening, avoidance was no longer an option. Noah, can we talk? Oliver said as they sat across from each other at the small dining table. Sure. What's up? Noah asked, his easy smile faltering at Oliver's serious tone. I don't think your sleepwalking is something to brush off anymore, Oliver said carefully. It's been happening a lot, and sometimes it feels like there's more to it. Noah frowned, his brow furrowing in thought. Like what? Oliver hesitated. He couldn't tell Noah everything, not without revealing the storm of emotions tied to it. I just think you should see someone about it. A doctor, maybe? Noah shrugged. It's not that big of a deal, is it? I mean, I'm not hurting anyone. Oliver bit his lip, the words lodging in his throat. No, you're not, he said finally, though the truth burned like a lie. That night, Oliver stayed awake long after Noah had gone to bed, the glow of his laptop illuminating his anxious face. He searched article after article on sleepwalking, desperate for answers, though none seemed to address his deeper fear. What if he was the problem? At some point, exhaustion overtook him, and he drifted off on the couch. He woke hours later to find Noah standing over him, his expression soft but unreadable. "Oliver," Noah said, his voice low and hoarse. Oliver's heart leapt into his throat. "Are you awake?" Noah didn't answer. Instead, he sat beside Oliver, so close their legs brushed. His hand reached out again, this time cupping Oliver's face with a tenderness that made time stand still. "You're dreaming," Noah murmured, his lips barely inches away. "Noah, stop," Oliver said, though his voice lacked conviction. But Noah didn't stop. His lips met Oliver's in a kiss that was both hesitant and urgent, as if somewhere deep inside he knew exactly what he was doing. For a moment, Oliver let himself sink into it, his barriers crumbling under the weight of years of suppressed longing. Then, as quickly as it began, it ended. Noah pulled back, his eyes fluttering open. He stared at Oliver, confusion and horror dawning on his face. "Oliver," he whispered, his voice shaking. Oliver scrambled to his feet, putting distance between them. "You were sleepwalking again," he said quickly, his tone panicked. "You didn't know what you were doing." Noah's hand flew to his lips as if trying to piece together fragmented memories. "I don't remember." "It's fine," Oliver said, though his voice cracked on the word. "Just go to bed. We'll talk tomorrow." Noah hesitated, his gaze searching Oliver's for answers. When he found none, he nodded and retreated to his room, leaving Oliver alone in the suffocating silence. The incident left a chasm between them, unspoken but impossible to ignore. Noah became quieter, avoiding Oliver's gaze, while Oliver wrestled with his own guilt. He should have stopped it sooner. He should have woken Noah the moment it began. But instead, he had let himself hope, and that hope had cost them both. Days passed in tense silence, each moment stretching unbearably long. Their once easy camaraderie had been replaced by an awkward dance of avoidance and half-hearted attempts at normalcy. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Noah finally broke the silence. "I think I need to figure some things out," he said quietly. Oliver looked up, his chest tightening. "What do you mean?" "I've been confused," Noah admitted, his eyes fixed on the floor. "About myself. About us." Oliver's breath caught. "Noah, you don't have to." "No, I do," Noah interrupted. "Because whatever's happening, it's not fair to you. Or to Lily." Oliver's stomach churned at the mention of Lily. He had almost forgotten she existed, so consumed was he by their tangled web. "Maybe I should move out," Noah said, his voice barely audible. The words hit Oliver like a physical blow. He opened his mouth to protest, to tell Noah that leaving wouldn't solve anything, but the words refused to come. Instead, he simply nodded, his heart breaking silently. Noah retreating to his room, leaving Oliver alone in the dimly lit apartment. The weight of their unspoken truths lingers in the air, setting the stage for the emotional fallout to come. The apartment felt different now, quieter, heavier, as if the walls themselves carried the weight of what had happened. Days had passed since the kiss, and though neither Noah nor Oliver had addressed it outright, the memory lingered between them like a storm cloud, dark and unresolved. Noah stood by the window, staring out at the city lights. His reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar, his face etched with lines of confusion and guilt. He was a man caught in the middle of something he didn't fully understand. "I broke up with Lily," he said suddenly, his voice cutting through the stillness of the room. Oliver, who had been sitting on the couch pretending to read, froze. He looked up, his heart racing. "You did?" Noah nodded but didn't turn around. "It wasn't fair to her. I've been distracted, confused. She deserves someone who can give her more." Oliver swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. He wanted to ask if the distraction was him, if the confusion stemmed from that night, but fear kept him silent. "I hurt her," Noah continued, his voice low. "And I don't even know what I want anymore." The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating, until Oliver finally spoke. "Noah, you didn't do anything wrong." Noah turned to face him, his expression pained. "Didn't I?" I kissed you, Oliver. I betrayed her. And you? You didn't stop me. Oliver flinched at the accusation, though he knew it wasn't entirely unfair. You were sleepwalking, he said carefully, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. You weren't fully aware of what you were doing. But I remember parts of it, Noah admitted, his gaze dropping to the floor. It felt real. Too real. Oliver stood, closing the distance between them. You don't have to figure this out all at once, Noah. You're allowed to be confused. Noah looked up, his eyes searching Oliver's face. And what about you? Are you confused? Oliver hesitated, the question cutting deeper than he expected. No, he said finally, his voice soft but firm. I know how I feel about you. I've known for a long time. The confession hung in the air, raw and unvarnished. For a moment, Noah seemed frozen, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know if I can give you what you want, Oliver. I don't even know if I can give you what you deserve. Oliver's heart ached at the words, but he forced a small smile. I'm not asking for anything, Noah. I just want you to be honest with yourself. That's all. Noah nodded slowly, his shoulders slumping as if a great weight had been placed on them. I'm trying. I really am. Over the next few days, they fell into an uneasy rhythm. The tension between them hadn't disappeared, but it had softened, replaced by something quieter and more introspective. They avoided heavy conversations, opting instead for small moments of normalcy, cooking dinner together, watching TV in companionable silence, sharing occasional jokes that felt like glimpses of their old dynamic. But beneath the surface, both knew things could never fully return to what they were. One evening, as they sat on the couch, Noah broke the silence. Do you think people can change how they see themselves? Oliver glanced at him, startled by the question. What do you mean? I've always thought I knew who I was, Noah said, his voice quiet. But now, I'm not so sure. It's like everything I thought was solid is suddenly shifting. Oliver hesitated before responding. I think people are always changing even when they don't realize it. And sometimes, the things that scare us the most are the ones that teach us who we really are. Noah nodded, his gaze fixed on the floor. I'm scared, Oliver. I know, Oliver said gently. That night, Noah knocked on Oliver's door for the first time in weeks. When Oliver opened it, he found Noah standing there, his expression uncertain but determined. Can I come in? Noah asked. Oliver nodded, stepping aside to let him in. Noah sat on the edge of the bed, his hands clasped tightly together. I don't know what this means, Noah began, his voice trembling. But I know I don't want to lose you. I can't lose you. Oliver sat beside him, his heart pounding. You won't lose me, Noah. Whatever happens, I'm here. Noah looked at him, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope. I don't know how to do this. But maybe we can figure it out together. A tentative smile crossed Oliver's face. I'd like that. Two of them sitting side by side, the tension between them replaced by a quiet, fragile hope. Though the path ahead is uncertain, they are no longer afraid to take the first step, together.